Okay, so we're back with Jay Leroux part 2. Part 2.
Yes.
And so we're talking to Jay, and one of the things that I found about Jay very early on in Las Vegas when we first met, and then also in the subsequent times, and then we've been bringing you to our church for 13 or 14 of those years at least. You and Linda came and led us in a marriage retreat, which was really fun, and I'll never forget that. Wow, okay. And it was great. By the way, did you ever know that the reason I called you was because Rick Howard encouraged me to call you?
I didn't know that.
Yes, it was Rick Howard that actually said, I said, what do you think about different guys? And I mentioned your name. Yes, Jay and Linda would be excellent. So I didn't know if I told you that.
No. Wow.
Right.
I didn't even think you remembered my name.
He sure did. He thought you'd be an excellent, so just so you know.
Yeah, that's great. No,
But, so one of the things that I noticed about the particular group with Rick Howard and yourself and some of the other guys, Wayne and Clint and Mark, and it seemed like everybody in the room was prophesying. And I was like, wow, this is different, So, that's part of what you do. It isn't even your main shtick. You're a preacher and you're a teacher and all that, but you like to prophesy.
Oh, yes.
So what's the difference, Jay, between Old Testament prophetic and the prophets, and what's the difference between that kind of thing and the New Testament use of prophecy?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. And if we can condense it, is the Old Testament prophets were in many ways these. One was they were, and there's multiple, there's the writing prophets, there's the speaking prophets, there's the living out prophets like Hosea. There are those different, then there's the visionary ones like Zechariah and Ezekiel. So it's a beautiful array and a large grouping of this.
Yes.
That they're definitely, first and foremost, obviously to speak to their day, and to begin to reveal the heart and will of God. The prophetic utterances were to be written, and they became a really part of what would be the law and the way we're going to live. That was a big part of it. 2 was messianic, of course, was to be speaking about, as we did here this past week, and we talked about it a bit, as forthtelling what this Messiah would look like, what he would be, what he desired to be. And of course, it was always a bit mystical, a bit uncertain. I mean, it'd be a little tough to believe a prophet that says a virgin will have a child. It's a little tough to, Micah's about Bethlehem. So we got all these, that's there. Then the third thing, of course, would be to deal with the hearts of the people, and I think that's probably one of the biggest changes in regards to how the Lord used that prophet in dealing with them, especially Jeremiah, especially obviously Jonah, even with a people that weren't his. I mean, that's amazing. So he wasn't only about Israel,
right.
But he would, it's so much about that judgment that God would bring. I really can't talk about it now, but it's not what he wanted to do. It's really what his people caused him to have to do. And then what do you do is you judge the nation that he used to judge his people. I mean, it's really a sad thing to see how much their lives either changed the world positively or changed the world negatively. Mm-hmm. And he certainly would want it to be a positive change, but he would use the nations of the world to discipline them, always has. And when we come to the New Testament, that's still a part of his way, but not so much in the prophetic word.
Okay.
There will be, with the New Testament prophet, though, I do believe, which some might disagree, which is different than the gift of prophecy, or even if there's a presbytery where the spirit of prophecy is present, men who normally don't prophesy, much like Saul did with the school of the prophets. The prophet will be forthtelling, seeing, as you know with me, past, present, and future. Not all of them do that. And in this dispensation we're in, if I can use that term, this time period of the time the Lord's using this to serve his ultimate goal, is to strengthen that which he has put in us.
Okay.
And a big difference between the Old Testament people and the New Testament people, Israel and the believer, is now there's the seed of God in us.
Right.
And he's mining that. And so when I mean, everybody sees the dirt in people. I was before I was ever saved, my family was raised to judge the dirt in people. We could tell you what was wrong with that guy and what was wrong with that guy and what was wrong with that guy.
Sure.
It really,
Right.
it did. I mean, it took a divine nature.
You had the gift of the obvious.
Yes, that's exactly right. Discern both good and evil. Well, the evil is evil, easy, and some more than others, of course. But the New Testament, the prophet to be able to see into the lives of individuals and really build that. I mean, Jesus, and I really learned it this way, and I think you'll be this, when you really watch him, he's tough with the leaders of a generation. I believe he's that way now. We're at a point now where our fathers are starting to go home to be with the Lord. We're going to be the next the next leaders. He's going to deal with us, how we're leading, what we're doing. We've seen that's what's going on here, especially.
Okay.
Not blaming them, but he's wanting something different.
Interesting.
Yes, and that's going on with us. But he's mining that treasure, and whenever I'm with him, it's not about Jay's. He knows this. He increases, I decrease. You can't. He's not on my bad stuff and saying, Jay, you got to decrease. No, he increases himself here. And that Christ really becomes central, preeminent, passionate. He becomes the answer. So the prophets very much in bringing the church, I'm certainly in my lifetime, as you know me, is to encourage us to begin to believe him, to hold on to him.
Yeah.
If Jesus is anything, he says, here's my Father. This is really what this kingdom of heaven's about. And it really, the Jews didn't like that. It was a stumbling block to them, and and it was foolishness to the Gentiles. But he really came to do that, and he continually does that. In my own personal life is really where I learned it.
So, speaking about the treasure, the seed that's in you, that the Lord, that's one of the main differences between the old and new. And the old was obviously prophesying about the Messiah and dealing with what you just said, dealing with that particular time and that particular age. So what would you say, and today it's about encouragement as well, and just, hey, the Lord's wanting to do something. What would you say would be the big thing that's the same or very similar between old and new? What is it that God has been trying to tell people in the Old and New Testament?
Yeah, I think that's great. I would say to unveil what has been hidden in his heart.
Good. That's so good.
It's because I still think, one thing that our last segment we talked about, we didn't really have a chance as much though, but there's a way of God, as we touched on a little bit, that really is, and it is this way. It's not an invisible thing. You can't grab a verse of scripture and say, there it is. In fact, it's so unknown, really, that in one generation only one man knew the way of God, and all the people knew the acts of God. And so, I realized with that, Moses understood something about him, his way, his character, his nature. Moses really understood this, and Moses becomes this incredible individual living in a day of incredible stubbornness of the people of God, resistance. The New Testament will say that they were hard-hearted and resist the Spirit of God. Mm-hmm. But Moses' reaction, one bad movement, of course, at the end, striking the rock twice, but the way he responds, and he, to me, shows so much of the nature of this hidden God, but they couldn't really see it. Jesus comes to unveil it.
Okay.
And certainly, I think our responsibility, I certainly feel it's mine, is to begin to have an intimate relationship out of the personal and the Word, to begin to unveil his real heart and his real passion toward us, that we would draw to him, see him. I think that's part of, and the prophetic word, obviously the written word is absolutely there, but hidden.
Right.
And the prophetic word, again, becomes so key because, and it's amazing how personal he can be. Mm-hmm. It's just, and his love for individuals makes, for me, prophecy so amazing. There's the one overall, but his passion for the person is just, the woman at the well, Zacchaeus, Mary and Martha, even at Simon the leper's house, he's just that way.
Yeah.
And I think we missed that a little bit. I don't think that's, and to understand how he does this, and it's just to understand his ministry to us in the earth and how he's functioning it. Yeah.
He's always wanted to unveil his heart. What you're saying?
Yeah.
And he's always wanted a relationship with us.
Yeah.
So
always.
So you're saying then, he's the same God.
Yeah.
He's the same yesterday, today, and forever. He loves people.
He absolutely does.
He cares for people.
Yeah.
And, thanks, Jay. That's the end of part 2. Thanks for watching. God bless you.